The drawer creaked as I pulled it open, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I shouldn't be snooping through Leonard's things, but something had been off lately. His distant behavior, the hushed phone calls, the late nights at the office. I needed answers. My fingers brushed against a stack of papers, and I pulled them out. A letter addressed to Leonard caught my eye. I unfolded it with trembling hands, my eyes scanning the words, my breath caught in my throat as the truth unraveled before me. Leonard had a hidden life, a secret that shattered the very foundation of our 20-year marriage. "What the hell are you doing?" Leonard's voice boomed from behind me, causing me to jump. I spun around, the letter still clutched in my hand. "How dare you snoop through my things?" he shouted, his face contorted with rage. "If you step out of line, I'll make sure you lose everything." I stumbled back, my heart racing. "Leonard, what is this? Who is this woman?" He snatched the letter from my hand, his eyes blazing. "It's none of your damn business, Carolyn. You have no right to question me." Tears stung my eyes as I watched him storm out of the room, slamming the door behind him. I sank onto the bed, my world crumbling around me. How could this be happening? We had just retired, ready to enjoy our golden years together. I had been so excited to become a grandmother, to spend more time with our family. But now everything felt like a lie. Leonard's distant behavior, his mother Evelyn's constant criticism of my homemaking and child-rearing abilities. It all made sense now. They had been hiding something from me, and I was determined to uncover the truth. I wiped my tears away, a newfound determination rising within me. I couldn't let them control me any longer. I had to fight for my family, for the future I had always dreamed of. The next morning, Evelyn arrived for her daily visit, her sharp eyes scanning the house for any imperfections. "Carolyn, dear, you really should dust more often," she tutted, running a finger along the mantelpiece. "And what's this? I hear about Leonard being upset with you." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my composure. "Evelyn, I appreciate your concern, but this is between me and Leonard." She scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "You forget your place, Carolyn. Leonard is my son, and I will always stand by him. If you can't fulfill your duties as a wife, then perhaps you don't deserve to be part of this family." Her words cut deep, but I refused to let her see how much they hurt. I had spent too many years bowing to her every whim, trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law, but no more. "I think it's time for you to leave, Evelyn," I said firmly, holding the door open for her. "I have a lot to think about, and I need some space." She huffed, grabbing her purse and storming out of the house. I closed the door behind her, leaning against it for support. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, but I was ready to fight for what was right. As I stood there, my mind racing with possibilities, I heard a soft knock at the door. I opened it to find Thomas, Leonard's father, standing on the porch. He gave me a sympathetic smile, his eyes filled with understanding. "Carolyn, I couldn't help but overhear what happened with Evelyn," he said gently. "I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. You don't have to go through this alone." I felt a wave of relief wash over me, and I stepped aside to let him in. Perhaps I had found an unexpected ally in this battle, someone who could help me navigate the treacherous waters ahead. The days following my discovery of Leonard's secret were a blur of emotions. I found myself constantly on edge, jumping at every sound, wondering what other lies he had been hiding from me. But I couldn't let my guard down, not with Evelyn's daily visits and her constant criticism. "Carolyn, dear, you really should dust more often," she said, running her finger along the mantelpiece. "And what's this I hear about Leonard being upset with you?" I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my composure. "Evelyn, I appreciate your concern, but this is between me and Leonard." She scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "You forget your place, Carolyn. Leonard is my son, and I will always stand by him. If you can't fulfill your duties as a wife, then perhaps you don't deserve to be part of this family." Her words cut deep, but I refused to let her see how much they hurt. I had spent too many years bowing to her every whim, trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law, but no more. "I think it's time for you to leave, Evelyn," I said firmly, holding the door open for her. "I have a lot to think about, and I need some space." She huffed, grabbing her purse and storming out of the house. I closed the door behind her, leaning against it for support. I knew I had a long road ahead of me, but I was ready to fight for what was right. That night, Leonard came home late, as usual. I was waiting for him in the living room, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I had to confront him about the letter, but I was terrified of what he might say. "Leonard, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. He looked at me, his eyes cold and distant. "What is it now, Carolyn? I've had a long day, and I don't have time for your nonsense." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "I found the letter, Leonard. I know about your secret life, about the other woman." His face contorted with rage, and he slammed his fist on the table. "How dare you accuse me of such things? I've given you everything, Carolyn. A home, a family, a life of comfort, and this is how you repay me? By snooping through my things and making wild accusations?" I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated by his anger. "I'm not making accusations, Leonard. I saw the letter with my own eyes. I know the truth." He laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that sent shivers down my spine. "The truth? You wouldn't know the truth if it slapped you in the face, Carolyn. You're just a naive little housewife who's in way over her head." Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back, determined not to let him see me cry. "I may be a housewife, Leonard, but I'm not naive. I know what I saw, and I won't let you gaslight me into believing otherwise." He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. "Listen carefully, Carolyn. If you breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll make sure you lose everything. The house, the money, the family. I'll take it all away from you, and you'll be left with nothing. Do you understand?" I nodded, my heart sinking in my chest. I knew he meant every word, and I couldn't risk losing everything I had worked so hard for. But I also knew that I couldn't live like this anymore, trapped in a marriage built on lies and deceit. As Leonard stormed out of the room, I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. I felt trapped, suffocated by the weight of his threats and Evelyn's constant criticism. I needed to find a way out, a way to break free from this toxic cycle. But how could I do that when everyone seemed to be against me? When my own husband and mother-in-law were determined to keep me in my place, to make me feel small and insignificant? I didn't have the answers, but I knew I had to keep fighting. For myself, for my family, for the life I deserved. And I wouldn't stop until I found a way to make that happen. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy heart, the weight of Leonard's threats still lingering in my mind. I knew I couldn't face another day of Evelyn's criticism and Leonard's cold indifference, so I decided to take a walk to clear my head. As I stepped outside, I noticed Thomas, Leonard's father, tending to the garden. He looked up and smiled, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "Good morning, Carolyn. How are you holding up?" I hesitated, not wanting to burden him with my troubles, but something about his gentle demeanor made me feel safe. "I've been better, Thomas. It's been a tough few days." He nodded, setting down his gardening tools and gesturing for me to sit beside him on the bench. "I can only imagine. I've seen the strain you've been under, and I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what." Tears welled up in my eyes at his words, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "Thank you, Thomas. That means more to me than you know." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the birds flit from tree to tree. Finally, Thomas spoke, his voice soft and contemplative. "You know, Carolyn, I've been married to Evelyn for over 50 years, and it hasn't always been easy. She can be a handful, to say the least." I couldn't help but chuckle at his understatement. "That's putting it mildly." He smiled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "I know, but I've learned a thing or two about dealing with her over the years. The key is to stand your ground, to not let her push you around. She may be stubborn, but so are you." I nodded, feeling a newfound sense of strength and determination. "You're right, Thomas. I can't let her control me anymore. I need to fight for what I believe in, for what I know is right." He patted my hand, his touch warm and reassuring, "And I'll be right there beside you every step of the way. You're not alone in this, Carolyn." We spent the rest of the morning together, talking and laughing as Thomas shared stories of his own tumultuous past with Evelyn. It was a side of him I had never seen before, and I found myself growing more and more fond of him with each passing minute. As the sun began to climb higher in the sky, Thomas stood up, stretching his arms above his head. "Well, I suppose I should get back to my gardening. These flowers won't plant themselves." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in days. "Thank you, Thomas, for everything." He winked, his smile warm and genuine. "Anytime, Carolyn. And remember, you're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." With that, he picked up his tools and set to work, whistling a cheerful tune as he went. I watched him for a moment, feeling a sense of gratitude and affection wash over me. In the midst of all the chaos and heartbreak, I had found an unexpected ally, a friend who believed in me and supported me unconditionally. But as I turned to head back inside, I saw Evelyn standing in the doorway. Her eyes narrowed and her lips pursed. "What were you doing out there with Thomas?" she demanded, her voice sharp and accusatory. I felt my newfound confidence waver for a moment, but then I remembered Thomas's words. I couldn't let her push me around anymore. I had to stand my ground. "We were just talking, Evelyn. There's no need to get upset," she scoffed, her face twisting into a scowl. "Talking? More like conspiring against me, I'm sure. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Thomas, haven't you?" I shook my head, feeling a surge of anger and frustration rise up within me. "That's not true, Evelyn. I have no reason to be jealous of you. I'm just trying to find some peace and support during a difficult time, and Thomas has been kind enough to offer that to me." She opened her mouth to retort, but I held up my hand, cutting her off. "I'm done listening to your accusations and criticisms, Evelyn. From now on, I'm going to do what's best for me and my family, whether you like it or not." With that, I brushed past her and headed inside, my heart racing, but my head held high. I knew there would be more battles to come, but for now, I had won a small victory. And with Thomas by my side, I felt like I could face anything. The confrontation with Evelyn left me shaken, but I refused to let it dampen my spirits. I had Thomas's support, and that was enough to keep me going. I spent the next few days focusing on my own well-being, taking long walks in the park and reading my favorite books, but my newfound peace was short-lived. One afternoon, while cleaning out Leonard's study, I stumbled upon an envelope hidden in the back of his desk drawer. My heart raced as I pulled it out, my hands trembling with anticipation. Inside, I found a stack of photographs and letters. The photos showed Leonard with a younger woman, their arms wrapped around each other, their faces beaming with happiness. The letters were even more damning, revealing a long-term affair that had been going on for years. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. How could Leonard do this to me, to our family? I had given him everything, sacrificed my own dreams and desires to be the perfect wife and mother. And this was how he repaid me? I confronted Leonard that night, my voice shaking with anger and betrayal. "How could you do this, Leonard? How could you throw away everything we've built together for some cheap fling?" He looked at me with cold, unfeeling eyes. "You're one to talk, Carolyn. You haven't been fulfilling your wifely duties for years. What did you expect me to do, just sit around and wait for you to come to your senses?" I recoiled as if he had slapped me. "Wifely duties? Is that all I am to you, Leonard? A servant, a plaything to be used and discarded at your whim?" He sneered, his face twisting with contempt. "You're lucky I've put up with you for this long, Carolyn. Most men would have left you years ago." I felt a surge of rage course through my veins. "Get out, Leonard. Get out of my house, and don't come back." He laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that made my skin crawl. "Your house? You forget, Carolyn. Everything here belongs to me. The house, the money, the family. Without me, you're nothing." I stood my ground, my voice steady and resolute. "I may be nothing to you, Leonard, but I'm everything to our children and grandchildren, and I won't let you destroy this family any longer." He grabbed his coat and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I collapsed onto the couch, my body shaking with sobs. How had it come to this? How had the man I once loved turned into such a monster? I spent the next few hours going through the letters and photographs, my heart breaking with each new revelation. Leonard had been carrying on this affair for years, sneaking off to meet his mistress whenever he had the chance. He had even bought her expensive gifts and taken her on lavish vacations, all while I was at home, struggling to keep our family together. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know where to turn. Evelyn would never believe me, and Leonard had made it clear that he would stop at nothing to keep his secrets hidden. As I sat there, lost in thought, the phone rang. It was Thomas, his voice filled with concern. "Carolyn, are you all right? I heard shouting coming from your house earlier." I broke down, pouring out the whole sordid story. Thomas listened patiently, his voice calm and reassuring. "Carolyn, you need to get out of there. Come stay with me for a while until we can figure out what to do next." I hesitated, not wanting to impose on him, but the thought of staying in that house, with all its painful memories and secrets, was too much to bear. "Thank you, Thomas. I'll be over in a few minutes." I packed a small bag and headed out the door, my heart heavy but my mind clear. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but with Thomas by my side, I felt like I could face anything. And I was determined to make Leonard pay for what he had done, no matter what it took. Staying with Thomas was a breath of fresh air. His home was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold, oppressive atmosphere I had grown accustomed to. Thomas was a gracious host, always making sure I had everything I needed and offering a listening ear whenever I needed to talk. Over the next few days, I gathered all the evidence I had of Leonard's affair, including the photographs and letters I had found. I reached out to friends and family, telling them the truth about what had been going on behind closed doors. To my surprise, many of them had suspected something was amiss for years, but had been too afraid to say anything. With their support and encouragement, I made the difficult decision to leave Leonard for good. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I couldn't continue to live a lie. I had to do what was best for myself and my family. I called my sister Diane, who lived nearby, and asked if I could stay with her for a while. She didn't hesitate for a second, insisting that I come over right away. "Bring Oliver too," she said. "He needs his grandmother now more than ever." I packed a few bags and picked up Oliver from school, my heart heavy but my mind clear. As we drove to Diane's house, I explained to Oliver that we would be staying with Aunt Diane for a while, until things settled down at home. He seemed confused but didn't ask too many questions, for which I was grateful. Diane welcomed us with open arms, her house a haven of peace and tranquility. She had always been the level-headed one in the family, the one who could see things clearly and offer practical advice. I knew I could count on her to help me through this difficult time. A few days later, I invited Leonard and Evelyn over to Diane's house, along with a few other close family members. I had something important to tell them, and I wanted to do it in person. When they arrived, Leonard looked annoyed and impatient, while Evelyn seemed suspicious and on edge. I took a deep breath and began to speak, my voice steady and clear. "I know about the affair, Leonard," I said, holding up the photographs and letters. "I know about Anne, and I know how long this has been going on." Leonard's face turned white, while Evelyn gasped in shock. "What are you talking about, Carolyn?" she demanded. "This is absurd." I shook my head, my eyes never leaving Leonard's face. "It's the truth, Evelyn, and I have proof. Leonard has been lying to us for years, and I won't stand for it any longer." Leonard's face contorted with rage, and he lunged towards me, his hands outstretched. "You stupid, ungrateful bitch!" he snarled. "How dare you do this to me, after everything I've done for you?" But before he could reach me, Thomas stepped in front of him, his eyes blazing with anger. "That's enough, Leonard," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You will not lay a hand on Carolyn, not now, not ever." Leonard stepped back, his face twisted with hatred and disgust. "You're all against me," he spat. "My own family, turning on me like a pack of wolves." I stood my ground, my head held high. "We're not against you, Leonard. We're against the lies and the deceit. We're against the way you've treated me and this family for years, and we won't stand for it any longer." Evelyn looked stunned, her eyes darting back and forth between Leonard and me. I could see the wheels turning in her head, the realization that perhaps her precious son wasn't as perfect as she had always believed. "I'm leaving, Leonard," I said, my voice firm and resolute. "I'm taking Oliver, and we're starting a new life, away from you and your toxic behavior, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." With that, I turned and walked out of the room, my head held high, and my heart filled with a newfound sense of strength and determination. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, I felt truly alive and in control of my own destiny. News of my confrontation with Leonard and Evelyn spread like wildfire through our small town. Everywhere I went, I could feel the eyes of the community on me, some filled with pity, others with a newfound respect. It was as if they had always known that something was amiss in our family, but had been too polite to say anything. Leonard, on the other hand, was facing a very different kind of attention. Whispers followed him wherever he went, and he was met with cold stares and turned backs at every turn. His once thriving business began to suffer as clients pulled away, unwilling to be associated with a man who had betrayed his wife so publicly. I watched from a distance as Leonard struggled to maintain his composure, his carefully crafted facade crumbling under the weight of public scrutiny. Part of me felt a twisted sense of satisfaction in seeing him suffer, but another part of me couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity. After all, he was still the father of my children, and I had once loved him deeply. Evelyn, surprisingly, took a different approach. She began to reach out to me, inviting me to tea and offering to help with Oliver. At first, I was suspicious of her motives, wondering if she was simply trying to save face in the wake of the scandal. But as time went on, I began to see a different side of her, one that was more vulnerable and genuine than I had ever seen before. "Carolyn, I know I haven't always been the easiest person to get along with," she said one afternoon as we sat in her living room. "But I want you to know that I deeply regret the way I've treated you over the years. I was so focused on protecting Leonard that I failed to see the pain he was causing you." I was taken aback by her words, unsure of how to respond. "Thank you, Evelyn," I said finally. "That means a lot to me." She reached out and took my hand, her eyes filled with tears. "I know I can't undo the past, but I want to be there for you and Oliver in any way I can. Please, let me help you." I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. As the weeks went by, I found myself growing stronger and more independent. I started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping other women who had been through similar experiences. It was a way for me to give back to the community that had supported me through my darkest times, and it gave me a sense of purpose that I had been missing for so long. One day, as I was leaving the shelter, I ran into Anne, Leonard's former mistress. She looked tired and worn, her eyes filled with a deep sadness that I recognized all too well. "Carolyn, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt you or your family. I didn't know Leonard was married when we first started seeing each other, and by the time I found out, it was too late." I looked at her, feeling a strange sense of kinship. We were both victims of Leonard's lies and deceit, and we had both suffered greatly because of it. "I forgive you, Anne," I said, my voice steady and clear. "We were both fooled by Leonard, and we both deserve better than what he gave us." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Carolyn. That means more to me than you know." As I walked away, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had faced my demons and come out stronger on the other side. I knew that there would be more challenges ahead, but I was ready to face them head-on, with the support of my family and friends by my side. And as for Leonard, well, he would have to face the consequences of his actions, just as I had. But for now, I was focused on building a new life for myself and Oliver, one that was filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. Just when I thought I had uncovered all the secrets in my family, Thomas dropped a bombshell that left me reeling. We were sitting in his living room, enjoying a quiet cup of tea, when he suddenly cleared his throat and looked at me with a serious expression. "Carolyn, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "It's about Evelyn, and why she's been so hard on you all these years." I set my cup down, my heart racing with anticipation. "What is it, Thomas? What do you know?" He sighed, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. "Many years ago, when Leonard was just a boy, Evelyn had an affair. It nearly destroyed our marriage, and it's haunted her ever since." I gasped, my mind spinning with the implications of his words. Evelyn, the woman who had always been so quick to judge me, had been hiding her own infidelity all along. "She's been projecting her own guilt onto you, Carolyn," Thomas continued. "She sees herself in you, and it terrifies her. That's why she's been so overbearing, so critical of your every move." I sat back in my chair, stunned by the revelation. Suddenly, everything made sense. Evelyn's constant meddling, her unwavering support of Leonard, even in the face of his own betrayal. She had been trying to atone for her own sins, and I had been caught in the crossfire. I knew what I had to do. I had to confront Evelyn, to force her to face the truth about herself and the damage she had caused. I thanked Thomas for his honesty and set off for Evelyn's house, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. When I arrived, Evelyn was sitting in her living room, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked up at me, her face etched with guilt and shame. "I know why you're here, Carolyn," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thomas told you about my affair, didn't he?" I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "Why, Evelyn? Why did you do it? And why did you take it out on me all these years?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I was young and foolish, Carolyn. I made a mistake, and I've been paying for it ever since. When I saw you so happy and in love with Leonard, it reminded me of everything I had lost." I couldn't bear it. I felt a wave of empathy wash over me, mixed with a deep sense of anger and betrayal. "But why protect Leonard, Evelyn? Why enable his own infidelity when you knew firsthand how much it could hurt?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with a desperate plea for forgiveness. "I thought I was doing the right thing, Carolyn. I thought I was protecting my family, just like I had tried to do all those years ago. But I see now that I was wrong. I was only hurting you and myself in the process." I sat down beside her, my heart heavy with the weight of her confession. "I forgive you, Evelyn," I said, my voice steady and clear. "But I need you to do something for me. I need you to be honest with yourself and with our family. No more secrets, no more lies. We deserve better than that." She nodded, her face a mask of relief and gratitude. "I promise, Carolyn. From now on, I'll do everything in my power to make things right, starting with being there for you and Oliver, in whatever way you need me." I hugged her then, feeling a sense of closure wash over me. The secrets that had haunted our family for so long were finally out in the open, and we could begin to heal. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew that with the support of my loved ones, I could face anything. As I left Evelyn's house that day, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. I had uncovered the truth, and in doing so, I had taken back control of my own life. And I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with my head held high and my heart full of hope for the future. In the weeks following my confrontation with Evelyn, I watched as Leonard's world crumbled around him. His once thriving business had all but collapsed, and his reputation in the community was in tatters. Everywhere he went, he was met with cold stares and whispered accusations, the weight of his actions finally catching up to him. I knew I should have felt a sense of satisfaction, seeing him suffer the consequences of his betrayal, but instead I felt a deep sense of sadness and regret. Despite everything he had done, Leonard was still the father of my children, and a part of me would always love him. One evening, as I sat in Diane's living room, watching Oliver play with his toys, I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to find Leonard standing there, his face haggard and his eyes filled with despair. "Carolyn, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Please, can I come in?" I hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside, allowing him to enter. We sat down at the kitchen table, an uncomfortable silence hanging between us. "I'm leaving town," Leonard said finally, his eyes fixed on the table. "I've lost everything, my business, my reputation, my family. There's nothing left for me here." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness wash over me. "I understand, Leonard. I think it's for the best." He looked up at me then, his eyes filled with a deep regret. "I'm sorry, Carolyn, for everything. I know I can never make it right, but I want you to know that I truly am sorry." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I blinked them back, determined to stay strong. "I know, Leonard, but sometimes sorry isn't enough." He nodded, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I know. I just hope that someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me." With that, he stood up and walked out the door, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I knew that forgiveness would come in time, but for now, I had to focus on rebuilding my life and creating a better future for myself and Oliver. A few days later, I found the perfect little cottage just a few blocks away from Diane's house. It was small and cozy, with a little garden out back where Oliver could play. As I signed the lease and started packing up my things, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation wash over me. This was a new beginning, a chance to start fresh and create the life I had always dreamed of. Evelyn and Thomas were there to help me move in, their faces filled with a newfound warmth and affection. Evelyn had been true to her word, making a genuine effort to be more supportive and understanding. She even offered to watch Oliver while I unpacked, giving me a much-needed break. As I sat in my new living room, surrounded by boxes and the smell of fresh paint, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had been through so much in the past few months. The betrayal, the anger, the pain. But I had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. I knew that there would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and uncertainty. But I also knew that I had the love and support of my family and the strength within myself to overcome anything that came my way. As the sun began to set outside my window, casting a warm glow over the room, I smiled to myself, feeling a sense of hope and possibility that I hadn't felt in years. This was my new beginning, my chance to create the life I had always wanted, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms.